Africa's modern battlefield was no longer carved out with guns, tanks, or the shadow of foreign armies. Instead, it was written in contracts, whispered in corporate boardrooms, and hidden in offshore accounts. The new war for Africa was silent but brutal, and its prize was not only gold, diamonds, and cobalt, but control over the very future of the continent. When billionaire Scott Bessent, one of America's most influential financial strategists, stood before an international investment forum in New York and declared, "America will claim Africa's mines," the room erupted in applause from bankers, CEOs, and lobbyists. For them, it wasn't just a business opportunity. It was empire building under another name. But thousands of miles away, in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, those words ignited a fire. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young revolutionary leader who had already made enemies among old colonial powers, received the news with a cold, unwavering stare. He read the transcripts of Bessent's speech, placed them on his desk, and whispered the words that would soon echo across Africa, "Over my dead body." Traoré knew what was at stake. Burkina Faso was rich in gold, yet its people remained poor, robbed for generations by a system designed to keep Africa weak and dependent. Foreign corporations reaped billions while African workers earned scraps. The new declaration by Bessent wasn't just about minerals, it was about sovereignty. Within days, Traoré called an emergency summit with his closest advisors, military leaders, and representatives of local mining unions. He didn't speak long. He didn't need to. His message was simple: no more secret contracts, no more hidden signatures, no more theft disguised as investment. Africa's wealth belongs to Africa. The room thundered with applause, but Traoré raised his hand. "This fight," he warned, "will not be against soldiers. It will be against banks, against corporations, against men who believe they own the world. And they will come for us." Traoré launched what he called the Gold Union. It was more than a movement. It was a promise that African nations would unite to control their own resources. He invited leaders from Mali, Niger, Guinea, and beyond to Ouagadougou. Some were hesitant, others fearful of Western retaliation. But Traoré's conviction was infectious. During the gathering, he stood before them and declared, "Every bar of gold stolen from Africa is a school unbuilt, a hospital left empty, a generation abandoned. If we do not defend our wealth, we do not deserve to call ourselves free." His words shook the hall. For the first time in decades, African leaders began to imagine a world where they were not puppets of the IMF, the World Bank, or billionaire investors. In New York, Scott Bessent laughed when he first heard of Traoré's defiance. "A captain from Burkina Faso," he mocked. "He thinks he can stop Wall Street." But as reports came in of African nations joining Traoré's movement, Bessent's laughter faded. Investors began pulling out of secret mining contracts. International banks faced protests in African cities. Hashtags like #AfricaNotForSale and #OverMyDeadBody went viral, spreading far beyond the continent. Bessent moved quickly. He pressured Western governments to impose sanctions on Burkina Faso, cutting off loans, freezing accounts, and attempting to strangle the economy. At the same time, private contractors whispered of plans to destabilize the government through covert operations. Yet, instead of breaking, the people of Burkina Faso grew stronger. Farmers, miners, students, and soldiers rallied in the streets. Murals of Traoré with the words "Africa will rise" appeared across city walls. Traoré called a press conference, not in a gilded hall, but in the heart of a gold mine. Wearing his simple military uniform, his hands still marked with dust, he looked into the cameras broadcasting worldwide. They want Africa's gold? Let them look into the faces of the men and women who mine it with their bare hands. This wealth is not theirs to take. This wealth is our dignity, our blood, our future. Over my dead body will they claim it. The words sent shockwaves around the globe. In Washington, journalists pressed Bessent for a response. He sneered, "Dignity does not pay bills. Gold does." But the world was already shifting. From South America to Asia, nations watched the standoff with fascination. Could Africa finally break free from centuries of exploitation? Months later, at an international summit in Geneva, Fate brought Bessent and Traoré face to face. Cameras rolled as the billionaire, dressed in his tailored suit, extended his hand mockingly. "You're brave," Bessent said, "but bravery won't save your country when the money runs dry." Traoré didn't flinch. He stepped forward, his voice firm, his eyes unyielding. "Maybe not. But when the last dollar fades, when the last empire falls, our people will still stand on their land, holding the gold you tried to steal. That is something no bank can erase." The room fell silent. Even Bessent's allies could not deny the force of his words. By the end of the year, the Gold Union had signed historic agreements between African nations, pledging to process their own resources and reject exploitative foreign contracts. Schools and hospitals began to be funded directly from mining revenues. The battle was far from over, but the tide had shifted. For the first time, Africa was not merely surviving, it was resisting. And at the heart of this movement stood a young captain who had dared to tell the world, "Over my dead body,